It is a gray morning in late March, and you are standing in your own backyard with a cup of coffee going cold in your hand. The grass is still flat and yellow from the snow, and I want you to look at a patch of ground no bigger than the floor of your living room, maybe 20 feet by 20 feet, smaller than the room where you watch television at night. Now I want you to believe something that will sound like a tall tale. On that little scrap of dirt, no bigger than the rug your feet are on right now, a family can grow a full year of food, not a few tomatoes for a salad. A year. Bread, grain, and beans, roots for the cellar, greens for the table, fruit for the winter, all of it. No electric lights, no store-bought fertilizer in a plastic bag, no machine you have to plug in or fill with gasoline. And I will tell you a number that took me a long while to believe myself. A single carrot bed just 4 feet by 4 feet, tended the old way, will give you 25 pounds of carrots. One dwarf apple tree, no taller than a man, will hand you 50 pounds of fruit a year. That is not a dream, that is arithmetic, and I have counted it with my own 2 hands. Now I want you to sit with this for a moment, because most folks have it exactly backward. You have been taught that growing food takes land, acres of it, big machines and bigger debt. That is the new thing. That is barely 100 years old, and it is already breaking down. For all the thousands of years before that, people fed whole families off a garden plot and a strong back. The big farm, the tractor, the sack of powder you pour on the ground, that is the newborn baby of farming, and like a baby it is loud and it is hungry, and it makes an awful mess. The old way is the grown way, and the old way says the size of your ground does not matter half as much as the life inside it. My name is Amos. I am Amish, and I farm a piece of bottomland in a green valley in Ohio, the same valley my people have worked for more than 160 years. I did not learn any of this from a book or a college. My grandfather taught me to read the soil the way you read a face. My mother kept the garden that fed 9 children, and she learned it from her mother before her, and that woman learned it in the old country before she ever crossed the water. So when I tell you a thing works, understand I am not guessing. I am passing down what was passed down to me, worn smooth by all the hands that carried it before mine. And my neighbor Jacob, who is older than me and twice as stubborn, he likes to say, "Feed the soil and the soil will feed you." That one line holds most of what I am about to tell you. There are 5 old ways, and if you learn them and weave them together the way we do, a small piece of ground will keep a family fed. The first is to feed the soil until it is black and living. The second is to let the garden defend itself so you never touch a poison. The third is to trap the sun and hold its warmth through the cold. The fourth is to stack your harvest up into the air and down into the ground, so not 1 inch is wasted. And the fifth is to water it slow and keep it long, so what you grow in summer carries you clear through winter. 5 old ways. Let me walk you through each one, the way I would if you were standing beside me at the fence. We begin with the soil, because everything else stands on it. Most folks think dirt is just dirt, a dead brown thing you stick a seed into. But healthy ground is more alive than anything you can see. I will give you a fact that stopped me cold the first time my grandfather said it. 1 single handful of good living soil holds more tiny creatures in it than there are people on the whole earth. Billions of them, in the hollow of your palm. So the first work is not planting. The first work is making that life. We build what we call black gold, and it is nothing but rot done on purpose. You start a pile in the half-shade, about 3 feet across. You lay down browns first, a good 6 inches of it, dry leaves and straw and torn-up paper, and that layer makes little pockets of air. Then 3 inches of greens on top, kitchen scraps and grass clippings and the like. 3 parts brown to 1 part green, that is the whole recipe. A thin sprinkle of old garden dirt between the layers to seed it with the right bacteria, the way you keep back a bit of dough to start the next loaf. Keep it damp as a wrung-out sponge, turn it with a fork once a week, and in 3 or 4 months you have crumbling black earth that smells sweet as a forest floor. Now here is why it works, and this is the part most folks never stop to think about. That pile is not just rotting, it is digesting. The browns are the carbon and the greens are the nitrogen, and the little creatures need both in balance, the same way you need both bread and meat at the table. You already know this in your own body. You do not eat food and have it become you the moment it touches your lips. There is a whole hidden world in your gut, billions of tiny helpers, and they break your dinner down into pieces small enough to pass into your blood. Without them, you could eat a feast and still starve. Your compost pile is the gut of your garden. It is the belly where the food gets broken down so the plant can actually drink it up through its roots. And this is why pouring powder from a store bag never truly satisfies the ground. You are shoving food into a body that has no stomach to digest it. Build the belly first. They have a fancy word for all those creatures, a whole science of it, but you do not need the word. You need the black, crumbling dirt. Feed the soil, and the soil feeds you. And there is one more thing the old way knows about soil, which is that you must never ask the same crop to eat from the same spot 2 years running. That is like sending the same child back for thirds while the others go without. So we move things around. The heavy eaters like corn go in, and the next year beans and peas take their place, because those quiet plants actually pull richness out of the very air and tuck it back into the ground. Then leafy greens, then roots, and around again. Jacob says the soil is like a savings account. You cannot only take out. Every season you have to put something back, or one hard winter you find the account is empty. But rich soil grows a fat, tender garden, and a fat, tender garden draws every hungry bug for a mile. So the second old way is to let the garden guard itself, and here is where I part company hardest with the modern man. He reaches for a spray. He kills the bug, yes, but he also kills the spider, and the ladybug, and the bee, and he leaves a residue in the very food he means to eat, and next year the bugs come back meaner, while his helpers do not. We do the opposite. We build an army that fights for free, and never asks for wages. First, we confuse the enemy with smell. We plant marigolds all through the tomatoes and beans, and garlic down the rows like a natural spray on the stalk, and basil beside the tomato to turn away the fat green hornworm. We even plant a few tender things at the edge on purpose, as a sacrifice, so the aphids swarm to those and leave the rest be. Then we invite in the hunters. A strip of wild native flowers along the fence brings the ladybugs and the praying mantis, and a brush pile in the corner gives a home to the toad. Now hear these numbers, because they are the whole argument. One single ladybug will eat 5,000 aphids before she dies. One toad, squatting fat and happy under your bean leaves, will eat 10,000 insects in a single season. You could not pay a man to do that work. Why does this beat the poison every time? Because you are not fighting nature, you are hiring it. And you already know this truth in your own body, though you may never have named it. When a sickness gets into you, the wise course is not to burn everything down inside. Your body keeps a whole standing army of its own, ready and waiting, that learns the enemy and comes back stronger the next time it meets him. That is your garden with its ladybugs and its toads and its wildflower strip. It is the immune system of the ground. The spray is like a medicine so harsh it kills the patient along with the disease, and it must be taken again and again forever because it leaves nothing behind to protect you. The living defense costs you nothing after the first year, and it grows stronger every season while you sleep. And while those flowers are guarding the garden, they are doing a second quiet job, feeding the bees. And there is a plain little bee called the mason bee that will make or break your harvest. 2 or 3 of them will pollinate as much as hundreds of the honey kind. Give them a bundle of hollow reeds in a sunny spot, and they will move in and work for you, because a garden that is never visited, no matter how rich, will set only a fraction of its fruit. The flower must be married to bear, and the bee is what carries the vows. The third old way is to trap the sun, and this is how a small garden stretches one season into 4. You do not need a fancy glass house that costs a fortune to heat. You need mass, and you need the sun, and you need to be clever. We build a little glass house, no bigger than a good garden shed, and the whole north wall we make of dark stone. All day that stone drinks the sunlight and holds it, and all through the cold night it breathes that warmth back out over the plants. We set barrels of water among the rows, painted black, and they do the same, warm as a bath by afternoon, and still giving off heat at midnight. And here is the trick my grandfather loved best. Along the cold north side we dig a trench and pack it with fresh horse manure and straw, and as that manure breaks down it makes its own heat, real warmth, enough that one wheelbarrow of it will warm 100 square feet for 2 whole months. No fire, no fuel, nothing you must tend. Now why does a black barrel and a stone wall keep a plant from freezing? Because warmth, like everything else, wants to be saved for the lean hours. You already carry this exact system in your own body. When you eat well, your body does not burn it all at once. It stores what it does not need right now as fat, quiet reserves laid up against a hungry day, and it draws on them slow when the food runs short. The stone and the water are the garden's fat. They store the sun's warmth when there is plenty, in the heat of the day, and they spend it slow through the cold of the night when there is none. And that trench of rotting manure, that is warmth made from work, the same as your own muscles throw off heat when you split wood in January. Trap the sun by day, and it will nurse your plants through the dark. The fourth old way is where the real magic of small ground lives, and it is this. Stack your harvest. Do not think of your garden as a flat surface, a checkerboard. Think of it as a room with a floor and walls and a ceiling, and fill every part of it. Up in the air, we run climbing beans and squash up strong panels and living towers. One good 8-foot panel will carry 60 pounds of vegetables that would otherwise sprawl across half your plot. Below them, in the shade the beans throw down, we tuck the greens that do not want harsh sun, the lettuce and the chard. And below the ground, in the very same square where the carrots grow, we scatter radishes, which come up fast and are gone before the carrots need the room. We plant carrots under the peas, potatoes under the corn. 3 and 4 crops sharing one patch of earth, each in its own layer. And we choose plants that pull triple duty. A potato feeds you, its leaves feed the compost, and it keeps all winter with no icebox. A climbing bean feeds you and feeds the very soil it stands in. And why does stacking give you 3 times the food from 1 square of ground? Because light comes down in layers, and roots go down in layers, and most gardens only ever use the 1 layer in the middle and waste the rest. You know this pattern already, because you are built on it. Look at how you are made inside. Your body does not leave great empty rooms of wasted space. Every organ is folded and fitted against the next, the lung against the heart, the liver tucked beneath, each in its own snug place, each doing its own work, without crowding its neighbor, all of it packed tight to get the most life out of the least room. A well-stacked garden is a body. Nothing rattles around loose, nothing sits empty. Every inch, high and low, is holding a life that is holding your dinner. The 5th old way ties all the others together, for it is no good growing a mountain of food in July if it withers in the field or rots by October. So the 5th way is to water it slow and to keep it long. For water, we do not stand there with a hose splashing the leaves, where most of it lifts right back into the air before it ever reaches a root. We bury clay pots down among the plants, plain unglazed clay, filled from the top, and the water seeps out through the walls of the pot straight into the ground at the root, so slow and so sparing that it cuts the waste by 70 parts in 100. And when we do water the beds, we water deep and seldom, a good long soaking once or twice a week, in the cool of the early morning. Why deep and seldom, when it seems kinder to give a little every day? Because a shallow daily sip teaches the roots to stay up near the surface, lazy and weak, and the first hot spell kills them. A deep soaking pulls the roots down hunting for it, down where the ground stays cool and damp through any drought. It is the very same as your own arm. The muscle that is asked to lift something heavy grows strong and deep. The one that is never tested stays soft. You are training the roots the way work trains a body. And to keep the harvest through the winter, we dig a cellar into the cool north side of a hill, down where the earth stays one steady temperature all year long with no machine at all. We store by dampness. The wettest back corner holds the roots that want moisture, the middle holds the apples and pears, and the dry front holds the onions and garlic and the winter squash. We lay slices of dried apple in among the potatoes, because something the apple breathes out keeps the potatoes from sprouting, a trick my mother swore by and never could name. And what we cannot cellar, we ferment in crocks with nothing but salt and patience, saving back a little brine from one batch to start the next, the way you keep a mother of sourdough alive from year to year. This whole business of keeping, why does it matter as much as the growing? Because a body that only ever ate in summer would be dead by spring, so your body lays up stores in the fat times to burn through the lean, and the garden must do the same. The cellar is the garden's larder of fat, the abundance of August held in trust against the hunger of February. Grow it slow, water it deep, and keep it long, and the little plot will feed you in the snow, just as it fed you in the sun. Now I need to stop and say a plain thing to you, and I want you to hear it in the spirit it is given. I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me, so I will not pretend all of this is without care. When you get to the keeping of food, the cellaring, and especially the fermenting, you must be careful, and you must be clean, because food put up wrong can make a family truly sick, and I mean sick in a way that is no small matter. So do not go and put up 50 crocks your first summer on a stranger's say-so, mine included. Begin small. Do 1 crock, do 1 shelf of the cellar, learn how it smells when it is right, and how it smells when it has gone wrong. Ask an old hand in your own town to look it over. The old ways are safe ways, but only when they are learned the slow, patient way they were meant to be learned, 1 season at a time. There is no shame in starting with a single bed and a single jar. That is how every one of us started. So let me set the whole of it in your hands again, plain, the way you would say it back to yourself at the fence. Feed the soil until it is black and crawling with life, for a dead garden cannot feed you no matter what you pour on it. Let the garden guard itself, with marigold and garlic and the ladybug and the toad, and never reach for the poison that kills your friends along with your foes. Trap the sun with dark stone and black barrels and a trench of warm manure, and steal 4 seasons out of 1. Stack the harvest, up the panels and down under the ground, until every inch high and low is holding a life, and water it slow and keep it long, with the buried clay pot and the deep morning soak and the cool dark cellar, so that the summer's plenty carries you clear through to spring. 5 old ways woven into one. That is a year of food off the floor of your living room. Now I would truly like to hear from you, so do me a kindness. Tell me down below where in the world you are sitting as you listen to this. What corner of what country? And tell me the second thing too, the one I most want to know. Tell me what your own people did. What did your grandmother keep in her cellar? What did your grandfather grow along the back fence? What old trick got handed down in your family that maybe you thought no one else remembered? Write it down there for me. I read every single comment on these. Every one. And more often than you would think, one of you teaches me something my own grandfather never knew. Before you go, let me leave you standing at the edge of the next thing, because there is one more old tool I have not told you about yet, and it may be the strangest of them all. It is a plain clay pot, unglazed, rough as a flower pot, with a narrow neck, and you bury it in the ground right up to its lip beside your plants and fill it with water and walk away. And that homely little pot will water your whole bed by itself for days, sweating the water out through its own walls exactly as fast as the thirsty roots drink it, wasting almost nothing. Most folks would look at it half buried in the dirt and think it a broken jug someone forgot to throw out, but it is a watering machine 4,000 years old, with no moving part and no cost, and in the next talk I will show you how to make one and set it, and a couple of other secrets besides for the man or woman who wants a garden that all but tends itself. You will not want to miss it. Until then, keep it simple, keep it honest, and keep it homemade. And remember, the people